3HL 1045 The Zone. Brent Doherty, Ron Slay with you. Don Davenport will be on the sideline. Wake Forest hosting Virginia coming up on Saturday. I think it's at 6 o'clock. I know it's an evening kick for her.
Nice little night game for Babsy.
Yeah, so that's where you can get her. You can watch the show live, YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and Twitch.
Twitch, please.
Thank you, Zeph. Zeph on site here as we broadcast live from Montgomery Bell State Park. Trucking for a Cure weekend. They've got a big golf tournament coming up. And again, they've got an incredible silent auction going. TFAC, that is Trucking for a Cure, cbo.io. And that's where you can get all the silent auction items and bid and donate to an incredible cause. tfac.cbo.io. Somebody just put Richie on YouTube put Mayor all over it. He said if people would just say no, then this crap will stop. I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't know.
But, so let me know. Josh Ward joins us now from Knoxville, co-host of Josh and Swain on the Sports Animal in Knoxville. Josh, what's up? How are you?
No. Did that cover it?
That settled it, Josh. Good job.
Let me know if that settled it. Let me know.
I don't know. They get so active in the chat that you get kind of lost, and then you see something, you're like, wait, what was that about? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the best. You get messages which you appreciate, but then you're trying to figure out what it means, and you get yourself confused. Happens to me.
Right. Well,
pretty much every segment every day.
Well, at least I'm all over it, according to him. So there's that. I don't know what I'm all over, but there you go. Tennessee, NC State. So the line has ballooned. I got it at 6.5 on Sunday. It peaked at 10. I think it's now at 9.5. Just your initial thoughts about this matchup. NC State did not look great. They were trailing Western Carolina in the third quarter. Did pull away late as Grayson McCall got hot. But what's your take on this matchup?
Well, we talked about this briefly, didn't we, last week? You were warned, hey, be careful in that week 1 to week 2, but you got it at a really good spot because at 6.5, it's taken off since then. And because of the way NC State looked, as good as Tennessee looked, along with the buildup during the offseason and the month of August for what Tennessee could become, the sense we've gotten in Knoxville this week is that Tennessee fans not only assume victory, but many assume beatdown city in Charlotte this weekend. We took score predictions all week long, and maybe we got one that I don't remember, but the closest margin I recall over 5 days of doing the show on Josh and Swain was 14 points, Tennessee to win the game. We took a ton of score predictions. People just offering them up, and a lot of times it was by 4 touchdowns or more. So Tennessee fans are all in on Nico, the defensive line dominating, and NC State having no chance. Now, I'm not at that point, but I do look at Tennessee's roster, and I look at the way Nico played. It's not, okay, it was against Chattanooga. That's the obvious disclaimer. But as others have pointed out, some have seen some analysts around the country point out the way that he delivered the football to the different receivers for Tennessee last week, and the amount of receiving options Tennessee was able to utilize. Nico, the play up front, Tennessee has, I think, a pretty clear advantage, but there are some questions that still exist that they're going to try to answer against the first power conference opponent of the season.
Josh Ward with us from the Sports Animal. Yeah, it's funny. Like, NC State's not going to be able to run the ball in Tennessee, right? Like, so it's going to become Grayson McCall and Concepcion, the receiver, had 9 catches last week. How do you think that factors in? And can James Pierce get some game-defining plays going in that NC State passing game?
Yeah, one of the first questions we got at the start of the week was, what happened to James Pierce? Where was Pierce? Did Pierce even play? That was a question that would pop up because he only played 10 snaps in the game, but they didn't need him. A lot of the defensive starters up front played 10 to 15 snaps. So they got him a little work, got him off the field. Pierce is going back to his hometown. I am sure that he's eager to have a big game. He'll have more of an opportunity, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him make a couple of big plays in this game. I think a bigger deal, though, is the interior of Tennessee's defensive line. They have some real guys there in the middle with Norman Lott, Eason, Thomas, Elijah Simmons, and I think that's going to be problematic. That's why I agree with you. It should be really difficult for NC State to run the football, even though they have a veteran offensive line and they have a veteran running back in Waters, a transfer from Duke, who scored 12 touchdowns, I think, last year. He's a pretty big guy, 215 pounds where he's listed. They've got personnel, but I think every team this season is going to have a difficult time, for the most part, in trying to run against Tennessee. So if Tennessee's able to be aggressive in getting after McCall and putting pressure on him, I think Tennessee's confident that they can get to him at least a couple of times, but maybe more importantly, take the football away or get NC State off the field quickly so that Nico and company can get to work. If for some reason Tennessee struggles to get to McCall and he has time to make plays through the air, well then, yeah, Concepcion's a real concern because he's a playmaker. And they brought in some other guys as transfers, like Justin Jolie, the transfer from UConn, who Tennessee fans wanted during the offseason, and UT did okay too in the tight ends that they brought in. But there are some playmaking options if Tennessee's not able to get pressure. I just think that they will be.
Yeah, and maybe I'm not being fair saying they won't be able to run the football because, yeah, they do have new running back Jordan Waters, and he went for 124 and 2 touchdowns last week. They just I think that was the first 100-yard game for an NC State running back in 34 games. So Grayson McCall can sling it 5 years at Coastal Carolina. So Slay Dog, that's going to be a key is watching that Tennessee secondary against Concepcion and those receivers. But I think even more importantly, getting pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, got to go breathe down their neck, man. And that's hopefully that's what we get to see. You know, finally with a matchup. This is a top 25 matchup, so knocking on the door, let's go get some work done on the neutral site. But, Josh, now a thing that I keep on hearing is about this 3-3-5 defense and what Austin P. ran is, and people looking back at it. There were difficulties with the offense when playing against that system. We all watched that Austin P. game. My pushback, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not, these are two different quarterbacks. And what's seen by one quarterback may not be seen by the other. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with you there. I do think it's a fair question to ask. Okay, Tony Gibson, right, the defensive coordinator for NC State, what he likes to run and his experience coaching against Baylor when he was at West Virginia, that should help NC State in preparation. But Tony Gibson had comments stressing his defensive players communicating well consistently as quickly as they have to go to keep up with Tennessee's tempo. If there's miscommunication, that can crush you on the defensive side. He knows what he's doing and trying to prepare NC State's defense. I'm skeptical that it's going to be enough because we've seen other coaches have a pretty good idea what they needed to get across to their players, and it just didn't matter in the end. Nico is a big factor here. That's why his understanding of where to put the football, his confidence in himself to make throws that other quarterbacks simply can't make, that can make a difference. Now, I mentioned some questions that can still exist. They might be answered just fine this weekend, and if that's the case, then the confidence in Tennessee's offense will grow. So Lance Hurd at left tackle, first start against a power conference opponent, and especially as an SEC player at Tennessee. How does he do? He gave up a sack last week. How does he do? How do running backs do in pass protection? So my question is not really with how Nico will handle things. He might make a mistake. I mean, that's perfectly acceptable if one or two happen. As a young quarterback, you kind of plan for that. But if others around him make mistakes that make Nico's life more difficult, that's when they could run into problems. But if protection is there, Nico is going to make throws. He has, I think, a lot of confidence in the playmakers around him. I think Tennessee staff is really confident what Brew's going to be able to do. Dante Thornton had a really nice debut. If that continues, then that's difficult for NC State's defensive backfield to keep up with. So fans predicting 49, 50-plus points, I'm not at that point. But I think the over-under number is 35, 36 points for Tennessee. Vols have a really good chance to go over that number, and the biggest reason why is Nico. I think he's already proven his special ability. Now he's going to have a chance to do it on a big stage on ABC.
Yeah, 314 and a half was a record for a Tennessee quarterback and a half, and Tennessee's had some quarterbacks with some really good wide receivers roll through there. So, not a bad first day in Neyland Stadium for Nico as a starter anyway. The one thing that we haven't seen from him is dealing with adversity, right? Like, so if this is a 3-point game in the third quarter, or, they've had 2 3-and-outs in a row, or he's thrown a couple of interceptions, or he gets sacked and fumbles, like, how does he deal with adversity, I think is one more thing that we need to see from him.
Yeah, and at the start of camp, he talked about how much he loves to go play away from home. It was really kind of phrased on the road, but this would count, I think, away from Neyland Stadium. I don't think there's much concern about how Nico will handle things like pressure of the moment. What if they are facing adversity, as you're talking about, if it's a tight game in the second half? Tennessee fans will probably tighten up a little bit if it's close in the third quarter going into the fourth, if it's not a blowout early, like I think a lot of people are hoping. But that's where I would think it comes back to everybody around him. Does that also mean, hey, the ground game's not as consistent as Tennessee hopes it will be going in? They had a really good debut with the different running backs. Dylan Sampson had a big day against Chattanooga. It should be more difficult against NC State. But if they're not running the football effectively and more pressure is put on Nico to go make plays, does everybody kind of rally around him? I don't have much concern about Nico neck up in terms of if it's a big spot, if they need a big play, his decision making doesn't mean he's going to be perfect. Again, that should not be the expectation.
Right.
But the California cool attitude, I think that's real with him. I don't worry about how Nico will handle a big spot, somebody needing a big play to step up at quarterback. You want Nico in that spot.
Man, and you know what? Dating back to the time that I was in school, another guy came across from with that kind of same demeanor, and he was from the West Coast as well. And that was the Iceman, Casey Clausen. Like,
we've had some Iceman references this week, Ron.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not alone. I love to hear that, man. But with him, who is someone that you expect to stick out outside of? I'm going to continue to say throughout the season, Dylan Sampson is going to be that guy that's going to be salivating, looking to prove a point, especially with all the weapons that keep continuing to emerge for Nico, especially with receivers. But who's the guy that you think could be that X factor, whether that be special teams, which we saw the big-time scoop and score on that block, or whatever it may be, defense? Like, who's that guy that could step up in this game for you?
I do think there are a lot of options. So Dylan is one of those guys.
Before you go into that, Josh, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You just said there's a lot of options. That is a wonderful place to be.
It's different from a year
think
ago.
what the defense is doing exactly.
Yeah. And I think there are several reasons why, too. So Dylan Sampson is one of those guys. As much as we're talking about Nico and as much love as he's getting, and I think it's warranted, we also have to remember the importance of the running game and Sampson's playmaking ability, which is proven at this point. That can be a huge difference maker for what this offense is. If Dylan Sampson stays healthy this season, he's going to be an all-SEC running back for Tennessee, and he's an option as a runner and a pass catcher for Nico. The reason I think there are a number of options, because I think if they're in the red zone, Chris Brazel is a guy to watch because of his length, his ability to go up and get the football. There were some throws that needed to be in a better spot for him when Gaston Moore, I think, was in the game in the second half. But Brazel has shown his ability to go up and get the football. An early touchdown to Ethan Davis. This guy is going to be somebody that defenses have to pay attention to this year. I think Tennessee is really happy with its group of tight ends. Two transfers that came in, Holden Stace from Notre Dame and Miles Kitselman from Alabama. Now, a lot of the time, their impact might be more in the run game, but all three of those guys, the two transfers and Davis as a second-year player, are guys that will help. I mean, what if Thornton is the breakout or the most improved guy? We've been asked, is he this year's Jalen Hyatt? Doesn't mean he has to catch 15 touchdowns and win the Biletnikoff, but athletically, he doesn't take a backseat to too many people in any situation. So that's why I think there are a number of players, plus the old steady guys. Like Brew McCoy is a guy that Nico is going to trust. Squirrel White was not needed much last week, but he'll have his moments as well. The coaching staff, Josh Heupel and the offensive staff, I think they have a lot of confidence in more players, probably several more players than they did with the offense a year ago.
Right.
Josh Ward with us from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. All right, Josh, all Tennessee fans calling you guys all week. Had the Vols winning by like 4 touchdowns. Where are you on this deal?
So I'm going to sound super negative. The score I gave out was 35-27. A slight disclaimer there.
Come on, Josh. Now, wait. Come on, man. Let your orange bleed through, man. What are we doing?
Well, I saw the video, too. I didn't want to come on here and upset a popular Tennessee podcaster like you, Ron Slay.
Isn't that amazing? He's really grown.
Yeah.
Expanded.
So finally, you're getting your due. I'm glad that it's finally come your way. But I had to give out a score early in the week when the line was lower and it was in some kind of competitive situation with others against the spread. So it's kind of a cop-out answer. But I think maybe a late score to make it closer. I don't have much doubt that Tennessee's going to win the game unless there's something unexpected. I think Tennessee will take care of the football. I think Nico will take care of the ball. If they limit turnovers, you don't have a catastrophic injury situation. I think straight up, especially on the line of scrimmage, Tennessee should have a clear advantage.
2 touchdowns, easy. More than 2 touchdowns. Tennessee's running that
that's what
offense.
scares me, to be honest, a little bit. There's a lot of, oh, man, the 14 plus, why not? So that's kind of why I'm in the.
Mayor's been saying this since last week, though.
Yeah,
So.
I said before last week's game they're going to blow NC State out.
Yeah.
I will tell you that Chris Lowe, who normally kind of downplays things, came on the show and said, look, man, we didn't even ask him for a prediction. He was like, look, man, Tennessee's going to win this by 2 touchdowns or more. They're running this offense as fast as they did with Hendon Hooker, man, and now you got these weapons on the outside. Those like deep post routes with Dante Thornton, and you find man-to-man situations out there spreading the field like that. Get Dylan Sampson going. I just don't think NC State's going to be able to score with them. They're going to have success offensively because they've got a really good quarterback. But man.
I think he's saying that to say you got another opportunity to give us another score, Josh. Get a do-over right here.
What did I say, 35-27?
Yeah, that could be your sports animal score, but what's your 3HL score?
I had something in my throat there. 35-20 is what I meant to say. 35-20.
There you are, Josh.
Welcome to the club, baby.
A little mishap through the technology. 35-20, easy win.
Go pull yourself a drink, baby. Welcome to the party.
It's good to join you guys. I will say, if Tennessee gets out to a lead early, I know we can say this a lot of times. I think it's the case here. Good luck to NC State if it's trying to catch up to Tennessee. I don't think that's happening.
I mean, Nico saying that line the other day, like, what's the mindset when you're up big? He said, foot on neck.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
That's your leader.
Yep.
All right, Josh, thanks. Better score there at the end. Way to go.
I fixed it. You got it, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, there he is, Josh Ward. The sports animal. You talked him into it.
Or did I? It's on. You did. You did what? I just pushed him off the edge. You made him get up there.